Hey guys, what's up? Well, this is the day. Got all my camping gear loaded up, and we are getting ready to drive this Samurai down to Southern Oregon, down south of Paisley. It should be a little over 400 miles on the way down there. I'm going to take a couple of detours and right at 400 miles on the way back, and then we're going to drive a couple hundred miles each day probably. So looking at around 1,200 miles I'm expecting to drive in the next few days. It's going to be an adventure. As you guys know, I've only had this thing a couple of weeks. It sat for a few years, and I've done a lot of work to it in the last week or so. Most of the work's necessary, some of it not so much. I wanted to be able to listen to the radio and stuff like that, but I did go back and forth about whether or not to drive this thing or to trailer it. I'm rolling the dice. We're gonna hit the road and see if we can make this thing work all the way down there and back.
Well, I'm not sure how well the audio is gonna come through here, but I'm about, I don't know, 250 miles into my drive, and no problem so far. I will say there was quite a bit of a headwind on the interstate going down I-5, and I could hold 70, but the EGTs were pretty high, and man, my feet were just cooking. It was so hot down through the trans tunnel, so I ended up slowing it down and finding a truck to get behind to kind of draft, and that helped quite a bit. But
I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side, PCH country limit. I don't need a guide, follow lights, take me where I wanna visit. Are you alive? Or just breathing? Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side, PCH country limit. I don't need a guide, follow lights, take me where I wanna visit. Are you alive? Or just breathing? Flashing red lights, driving at night, windowless ride, feeling alive. Nothing in sight, forever in flight. Follow those lines, we'll make it this time. Blurry street lights, work as a guide to memories that we're making tonight. Oh yeah, we'll make it tonight. Yeah, I'll do anything that I feel like I wanna do. I'm living life like I got nothing left to prove. No end in sight, just always staying on the move. I'll go all night if that's just what I gotta do. Life's too short to care about what you can't afford. Memories are in what you explore, so just don't be ignored. Go ask for more, go ask for more. Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side, PCH country limit. I don't need a guide, follow lights, take me where I wanna visit. Are you alive? Or just breathing? Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side, PCH country limit. I don't need a guide, follow lights, take me where I wanna visit. Are you alive? Or just breathing? I'm in a race that everybody's chasing fast. They wanna be that someone on the screen at last. They ain't looking inside for their needs in life. They wanna be liked by everybody in sight. But trust me, being free ain't spotlights. No, it's long nights and it's long fights with yourself all the time to get your mind right. But if you put in the work, you can find the light, alright. I'll do anything that I feel like I wanna do. I'm living life like I got nothing left to prove. No end in sight, just always staying on the move. I'll go all night if that's just what I gotta do. Life's too short to care about what you can't afford. Memories are in what you explore, so just don't be ignored. Go ask for more, go ask for more.
in that bright purple lifted X90, crazy looking rig. We are headed up to Paisley right now to get some cell service so we can determine the exact location of the Sunstone collection area. Both Eric and I have been there before, but neither of us can remember exactly where it is, so we'll get that figured out, and we'll be mostly on just Forest Service roads today. No hardcore stuff, just dirt 2 tracks. Probably be in 2-wheel drive all day. So
I'll try to make it exciting by getting a flat tire or something today too, so we can, you know, maybe I'll make it a sidewall. I only brought about 70 tire plugs, so maybe maybe we'll do something like a sidewall puncture exercise.
Wire, we can like wrap it up.
Yeah, yeah. We can stitch the tire together and
Fine. Yeah, you really have to put it on the plugs. The dog doesn't like the bell.
church bell. It's too bad the camera doesn't pick up the smell. At this time of year, the sagebrush is super potent, and just brushing along it here with our vehicles, it's like all I can smell right now. It's pretty awesome. Really like being out here in the desert. Well, we made it out here to the Sunstone collection area. It has been, I think, 15 years since I was here last. Like anything, last time I was here there was practically nothing here and plenty of sunstones all over the ground, and now it's kind of been built up and there's RVs and stuff parked out here and there's not nearly as many sunstones on the ground. But I don't know, it depends on how small you want to go. All these things that look like pieces of glass are the sunstones, and they're just littered over this huge area here. Most of them have kind of a yellowish tint to them. Yeah, the last time I was out here, well, it was easy to find big, huge ones. Now as I'm wandering around, I'm not seeing anything other than just the little shards. But yeah, I'm gonna do just a little bit of digging here and see if I can churn up some bigger ones. A little bit larger size here. Let's see your haul, Doug.
As far as rocks go,
They are rocks.
they are rocks.
They're just rocks, man.
So many jokes.
It's good stuff.
well, we finished up at the Sunstone collection area. We're heading down to Plush. So kind of backtracking a little bit. We'll go a little ways south and take an alternate route back to Paisley and then back to the campground. So far the Diesel Samurai is running great. Had some 4-wheel drive low range sections, just kind of loose, sandy, uphill, off-camber stuff. Did fine in that. I actually noticed something that I probably missed when I was doing my nut and bolt check. One of my leaf spring bolts was missing a nut. Could have been dangerous if that thing had backed out, but fortunately Eric had a spare in his bag of spare nuts and bolts. He had a spare nut that fit on that, so tightened that up, but yeah, everything else looks good. I'm not leaking or squeaking or no other problems with it. So, well, it's day 2. I didn't set up the camera last night at all. I don't know, long day of driving. I guess I just forgot to, but we're just pulling out of the campground right now. We're gonna hit Fort Bidwell, kind of a ghost town little place, and then we're gonna go over and revisit the Three Corners marker. So, where that be? California, Nevada, and Oregon. So we'll check that one out. And yeah, should be another good day. A couple 100 miles of driving probably. Diesel Samurai is still working great. I did have a charging problem yesterday. I don't think we set up the cameras for, but the connector that goes into the alternator developed a loose connection and was actually getting too high a voltage. And this voltmeter, I was seeing it creep up 16, 17 volts. Wasn't up there all the time, it was just bouncing around, and that really concerned me. That high voltage, you know, I could cook my electronics, definitely would wreck the battery. So anyway, I spent some time troubleshooting it in camp last night and realized that the field connector going into the alternator was causing that. So basically made up a new one with just some spade terminals, and yeah, voltage is holding steady now, so pretty sure we fixed it. It being Memorial Day, I doubt that any auto parts stores are open, but when we're past through Lakeview, if there is one that's open, I'll stop and get one of those actual connectors and then repair it correctly this evening.
Hey, Eric, don't worry. I was coming up here to get your hubs for you. So which way are we facing? Downhill or uphill? Are you stuck or not stuck?
I have some homemade I got from you. Oh, there it is.
Tried to go across the mountains to get to Fort Bidwell. We ran into too much snow. Eric went ahead to try and scout and see if it was possible to make it through, and he ended up sliding off the road and having to winch back up on the road, which means I'll definitely not be able to get through there. Then we started hearing thunder and lightning. Anyway, then we started hearing thunder and lightning. I can still hear it booming out there, so I don't think we want to be up here at wherever we're at, 8,000 feet or so, when this thunderstorm rolls through. So we're working our way back down to the pavement, and we're just going to hit Fort Bidwell that way. It's probably only 20-25 miles. So anyway, snow stopped us. It's all right. Adventure. Well, made it to Fort Bidwell. Had to stop at the summit on the pass on the way in here. The Samurai was starting to overheat again, so another quart or so of water boiled out of it. Looks like I'll definitely have to address that. Yeah, Fort Bidwell is this really cool kind of semi-ghost town. We're gonna roll through here and take a look at a couple of the sites. Well, Mother Nature has decided to treat us with some rain and some hail and some thunder and lightning too. Well, at least that cuts down on the dust just a little bit. I guess we've traded it for mud, but fortunately this Samurai has its tires completely tucked under the fender flares, so mud's not such a big deal for me. It pretty much all stays under the rig. Well guys, adventure. I am way out here in the middle of nowhere. So I was going down the road and I lost all power. I mean all horsepower. Big cloud of black smoke. The turbo is locked up. It will not turn. So, in order to get back to camp, I'm going to wire open the wastegate and just run with no air cleaner. I'm going to just pop the charge air pipe off the intake manifold, and at least I'll be naturally aspirated. The turbo won't be acting like a giant restriction in the intake or the exhaust side. I got a long drive home though tomorrow. May have to pull the turbo off tonight.
Oh yeah, do your narration.
You're gonna do it?
I'm not doing the narration, you do it.
Doug, you're doing a narration?
No, I don't know what you're doing.
Well, we're pulling the turbo in the campground.
Well, that was a really good narration. Good job.
Thank you. It's actually cooling down enough now to handle things without getting instantly scalded. But that's hot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did it already fall out, whatever it was?
No.
Or was that the gasket?
No, I just dropped a washer.
Oh, that's fine. That's not a big deal. We don't need washers.
Oh, dude, look in there.
Oh, look at all those chunks. What is that? Oh, I can hear it.
What is that?
There's tons of things.
There is. I think somebody didn't like the guy. You grab the needle nose, you probably.
There's no, there is. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here.
Yeah, there is. It's like a whole little scrapyard in there. Put them up here when you
We
get.
got the turbo off. Okay,
There's
Matt,
that thing.
Matt got the turbo off, and this is what's inside there. Holy hell.
Well, the blades look fine on this side. Like, all the blades look straight.
Huh? I'm sure they're fine. That stuff's big. That didn't get in there.
No, something got in there. The blades are locked up.
It is right now.
Yeah, I can't turn them.
Oh.
My guess of what was going on is exactly right. One of these would get stuck over that hole,
Yeah.
and I'd have all this back pressure. That's why my EGTs would go through the roof, and then when I turn the key off,
They'd fall down.
it'd fall right back down, and then I could start driving it again.
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
I'm just glad that someone capable got their hands on it, because I'd have blown it up.
I might have blown up the turbo.
Guarantee
I
it.
don't know.
I would have never thought any of this.
Well, I drove it for 500 or 600 miles before I developed this theory that this is what was going on, but it almost sounded too bonkers to be true.
Yep.
Is
Is it a metal gasket? Does it have a metal gasket and that's the material?
Dude,
It's
look
not
how thick
shaped-
this is.
It's not shaped like
and it's not
anything.
shaped right.
Well, yeah, because it's been rattling around in there. Been baking. I don't know what it is. Somebody didn't like the guy. I don't know.
Well, they just cutted them and folded them back.
Well, the one I couldn't get out is still in there.
Yeah, I wonder if they just cut them and folded them back.
Well, there's more.
Do we need a magnet to run it around in there and try to get stuff?
Well, I want to fire it up.
That's a good idea. We blow stuff out.
Yeah. I still want to know what's stuck in the turbo because that's the concerning thing to me. Clearly, it's one of these. It's a small piece like this. I'm sure that got sucked up in there and got far enough in that it... I heard it scream like the blades were rubbing against something. That's what the scream sound was.
Yuck.
Yeah, listen to it.
There's something in the turbo.
Just tinging it.
Get
this
it
is
away.
where a hammer works. I'm telling you.
Look in there, Eric. You can see it on the left side. See
yeah,
it?
it's right there.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Think your camera will pick it up?
No, probably. I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
A little glimmery thing in the upper left.
Yeah.
There's the turbo all pulled out now. You can see something in there. I'm trying to figure it out. Get it out of there.
It's hot. Weird.
How are we going to keep that one bolt clean? This probably work too.
It's just a wastegate.
Oh, there it is! Yay!
Is that the same thing other stuff was in?
Yep, 4 of them.
Wow.
That one's got a little rub on it.
Yeah, that one's got a mark right there. Turbo spins nice and free now, though. And the blades don't look jacked up. They're not hitting the housing or anything.
That's good. Dude. All right, man. Let's put that thing in and go hot rod. How do I turn this thing off?
Ooh, night. I just read the...
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
A little piece of something flew out.
That
But
was a piece of gasket.
was it?
I saw it, yeah.
Okay.
It was a piece of that cork that blew out. Nothing came out. I saw a little bit of flame.
I'm actually going to do a little interjection here and show you guys something that I found in the Samurai after I got back from the trip. Now, the Samurai was full of stuff when I got it, and I basically just pulled all that stuff out and threw it in my shop in a pile because I was in a hurry to get the Samurai ready to go, and I didn't read everything that was in there. But when I was cleaning things up when I got back, I found this, and this is an invoice from Oregon Fuel Injection. And it looks like one of the previous owners took this thing to OFI to have a diagnosis done on hard starting and just a general underpowered situation. So they diagnosed the hard starting as bad glow plugs, which it had 4 bad ones when I got it, but it had 4 good ones in the box. So I replaced those, which solved the hard starting issue. But basically, I'm gonna read through here. And it said they test drove and checked drivability. The engine does seem underpowered. Performance was 37 miles an hour with some black smoke. Pyro was at about 650 in the downpipe. And then they noticed that the turbo was producing 15 PSI and was very quick to build boost pressure, even when the transmission was in neutral. And their theory was that the turbo is actually too small, creating a restriction and limiting the potential of the engine. The wastegate is opening at 10 or so PSI. Further down in the diagnosis, they actually request to drill and tap the exhaust manifold side to check drive pressure, and the customer declined. Now, had they done that, I am certain that they would have figured out what was actually going on, because they would have seen those wild swings in drive pressure, you know, in back pressure that was caused when that scrap was getting sucked over the turbo inlet. So anyway, this is the reason that this Samurai likely found its way through a couple of different owners and ultimately into my hands. You know, just the inconsistency with the way that it ran was super frustrating. I mean, you'd have plenty of power at one moment, and then without any changes, a moment later, you'd have sky-high EGTs, huge amounts of black smoke, and you know, no power. So anyway, I've never heard of anything quite like that before. Certainly never experienced it. happens, I guess. I'm really lucky. The turbo's in one piece. The Samurai has driven like 2,000 miles now and still running strong. So yeah, just interesting story. Thought I'd share it with you guys.
Well, that's it. I'm all packed up and loaded up. Got all my camping gear crammed back in this thing and headed back toward home. Now, after we pulled all those bits and pieces out of the exhaust manifold last night, I did drive this for a few miles up and down the road. And I gotta tell you, what a difference. You know, that stuff's been rattling around in there for, well, over 1,000 miles of driving. And occasionally some of those pieces would flip up and completely cover the turbo inlet. I thought it was a metallic piece of exhaust manifold gasket that had broken off, but clearly, I don't know, that was just ridiculous. I've never even heard of anything like that. So the turbo's in one piece, the exhaust, the inducer blades are all straight. Yeah, got lucky on that one. The Samurai, of course, is running really good. Got way more power. I can hear the turbo whistling. No more intermittent losses of power like I was having before. Yeah, I think the drive home ought to be pretty good. Looking forward to really seeing what this thing will do now that it doesn't have all that crap in the exhaust manifold. We're going to drive up here to Paisley, top it off with diesel, and then point it northwest and head toward home. Well, guys, I have successfully made it back home with Samurai. That was right at 400 miles. I think it took me, is right at 8 hours or so. Really no problem. You know, pulling all that stuff out of that manifold, oh, it was so nice to have consistent power. Still no powerhouse, but, you know, I never had to lift for EGTs, and I was able to hold 55 over almost all the passes. A couple of the sections, the Highway 26 close to my home, those are kind of steep, and I think I got down maybe 52 or 53 over those. But yeah, really for kind of a cobbled together swap, this thing did pretty darn good. Stay tuned though, because I am developing a list of upgrades. I'll be bolting the new turbo on this, but the trip has uncovered a few other issues that I'd like to address with it. So over the coming weeks, I'll be knocking some of those projects out as time allows. So yeah, thanks again for coming along, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.